Welcome back, beautiful people. This is the 8th presentation in our Self-Mastery 360 course. And in this presentation, I'm going to show you an amazing formula that shows you how to shape your destiny. With that being said, let's get right into the presentation. But before we begin this presentation, I want to briefly discuss our course motto. Why? So we can continue to grow and magnify your appreciation, thankfulness, and gratitude for this amazing gift of life that's given to us. Remember, our course motto is, you decide how you live your life, but you don't give yourself life. Think about it. Do you make the sun shine? No, you don't. But without that sun shining, you couldn't live. You couldn't exist. So that's definitely something to be thankful, grateful, and appreciative for, because you decide how you live your life, but you don't give yourself life. Do you make the electrons revolve around the nucleus core of the atoms that make up your body? Absolutely not. You have 7 octillion atoms, and that's 7 with 27 zeros behind it. And each one of these atoms has electrons that revolve around their nucleus core. And you don't command those electrons to move. But if those atoms did not function like they do, you could not live. You could not exist. Something else you need to be thankful and appreciative for: your nervous system. 70% of your nervous system is involuntary, which means you don't tell it to work. Do you tell your kidneys and your liver to function? Absolutely not. No, you don't. But without these things happening, you could not exist. Remember, life is given, and we should appreciate it. We should cherish it, and we should utilize it. We should find our gifts and find our purpose. Remember, the purpose of life is to find your gifts, and the meaning of life is to give them. So we should be thankful, appreciative, and show gratitude for this life that's given to us. And who should we show that thankfulness and that appreciation and that gratitude towards? God, because it's God's will that gives us this life. With God, there is everything. Without God, there is nothing. All right, so as we begin, let me start by saying that this presentation goes hand in hand with the Power of Your Mind presentation that you've already seen. And how is that? How do they go together? Because in order to shape your destiny, you have to use what? The power of your mind. And the only way to do that is by first finding your intent and purpose with your life, and then establishing goals, aims, and objectives to achieve it. And there's a formula you can use to shape your destiny. And every part of this formula is something that you control. That means the only person stopping you from shaping your destiny exactly how you want it is you. And by the end of this presentation, you will know exactly what I mean. And in order to build a better understanding of exactly how to shape your destiny, let's briefly talk about the 2 nerve pathways our brain uses to journey through life and to experience life. You have to understand these nerve pathways and how they function, because you're going to be using one of them to shape your destiny. And the one you will be using is the motor nerve pathway. Because in the formula of shaping your destiny, the only way it can work is by moving and speaking. That's how you shape your destiny. It involves some kind of moving and speaking. And it's your motor nerve pathway that controls these functions. And it is you that controls your motor nerve pathway. All right. So the power of your mind is twofold. It has the power to receive signals from the body and give commands to the body. The signals it receives comes from the 5 senses. Whenever you see, hear, taste, smell, or touch something, signals are sent through the sensory nerve pathway to the brain, and it interprets what you saw, what you touched, what you smelled, what you heard, or what you tasted. And the nerves used to send these signals are called sensory nerves, or the sensory nerve pathway, because they deal with your senses and the signals they send directly to your brain for interpretation. And the nerves used to send commands from your brain to your body in order for you to talk and move are called your motor nerves, or your motor nerve pathway. This motor nerve pathway is used by your mind in order for you to move and speak. Signals are sent from your brain that commands and directs your body how it wants you to move and how it wants you to speak. And like I said, the motor pathway is the one we will be using, because in the formula of shaping your destiny, the only way it can work is by moving and speaking. And it's your motor nerve pathway that controls these functions. And it is you that controls your motor nerve pathway. It is you that tells yourself how to move and what to say. Okay, so as I explain this formula for the first time, I will start at the last part of the formula and then work my way to the first part of it. And then once you understand each part of the formula, we will go back and start from the first part so you can see precisely how the formula works and how to use it to actually shape your destiny. As you can see, the word body represents your movement and speaking, because obviously you move and speak with what? Your body. And remember, we're starting from the back of the formula and then going to the front. So now the question is, what controls these actions of movement and speaking? We just spoke about it a minute ago. That's right, your mind. In this presentation, we will use your mind and brain as basically the same thing because it is your mind that controls your brain. But we don't have to be so over specific. Your mind and brain basically work directly together. And what is your mind, or AKA your brain? It's your control center. And as you can see on the slide, that is the part that comes right before the bodily actions of moving and speaking, because it is what? Your mind that controls your movement and your speaking. Okay, so now we have to ask the question, what is the power that drives my mind? What gives my mind its energy? What inspires my mind? That's right, your willpower. That is the part of the formula that comes before your mind. Remember, as we first go over this formula, we're going from the back to the front first, and then later we're going to go from the front part of it to the back. So your willpower empowers your mind. And once again, we have to ask the same question we did for the mind. What gives your willpower its marching orders? What gives your willpower its purpose? What gives your willpower its motivation and inspiration? What does your willpower follow? Yes, your intent. And what is your intent composed of? How do you find it? Well, your intent consists of your purpose and the goals, aims, and objectives that you have set in your life in order to attain it. Your intent is the first part of the equation. It's the question that has to be answered first. All right, so now that you can see exactly what the formula is, now we're going to go a little bit more in detail over each step of the formula so you can have a clear understanding of how your destiny is completely in your hands. And it is in your hands because each step in this process includes components of your being that you are directly in control of. And this is not just a statement, it is a fact. All right, so let's prove this point one by one, that you are in control of each step of this formula. Okay, so you create your own intentions. You decide what you intend to do with your life, and you decide the goals, aims, and objectives needed to get there. What you intend to do with you is whose decision? Yours. And you have control and utilize your own willpower. That's why it's called willpower, because it comes from your individual will, your individual drive. And who controls your willpower? You do. And you control your own mind. Does this need any explanation? No, I don't think so. Nobody controls your mind and what you think. You do. And you command your body how to move and your mouth what to speak. And you are responsible for whatever the effects and consequences are. Obviously, nobody controls how you move or speak. These actions are also completely up to you. So as I said, you are in control of each part of this formula for shaping your destiny. So really, there is no excuse. And people, whether they know it or not, are actually shaping their own destiny every day based on the decisions they are making. How? Because your decisions are what determine your destiny. And you make hundreds of decisions every day, starting from the time you wake up in the morning until the time you go to bed. And you can either make well-informed decisions that align with your intent, with your goals, so you can shape your life the way you want it, or you can choose not to make intelligent decisions with your life and end up becoming your own worst enemy. If you don't take an active role in this process of shaping your own destiny, you may create a future for yourself full of issues and problems that could have been avoided if you simply took a more responsible role for your own life. All right, so now let's go back to the formula and briefly break each part down even further so you can gain a better understanding of it and hopefully begin to apply it in your life. All right, so what is intent or intention? Well, intention is defined as the end or object intended, or your purpose. Purpose is a synonym for intent. Another definition, a specific goal, aim, or objective. And the last definition of intent is a determination to act in a certain way in order to attain a desired result. And as the first definition suggests, your intent, or what you intend to do with your life, usually lines up with what your purpose in life is. And a lot of people don't know what their purpose is or how to find their purpose. And therefore, because they don't know what their purpose is or how to find it, they have problems when you ask them what they intend to do with their life. And if you are having this problem, there is a way to find out, at least in part, what your purpose in life is. But to do that, you first have to find out what your talents are, what your gifts are, what your passions are, and what you're proficient at. Once you find out one of these, one of your talents, your gifts, your passions, and proficiencies, then you can find out in part what your purpose is. If this is you, don't worry. In the next presentation, I will help you find at least one of your talents, at least one of your gifts, at least one of your passions, and at least one of your proficiencies so you can determine what your purpose is. Then once you find this purpose, this intent, you can follow the second definition of what intent is and set personal goals, aims, and objectives that will help you fulfill your purpose and your intent. Knowing at least a part of what your purpose is in life is important because it tremendously increases and inspires what? Your willpower. But if you don't know what you intend to do with your life and you have no purpose, then you will have very little willpower and it will be very hard for you to hold any kind of job or maintain personal happiness or even take care of your own personal health. Knowing your intent, your purpose, and setting realistic goals in your life increases and empowers your willpower, and a lack of these things severely reduces it. Your intent or your purpose does two main things. First, it provides fuel, drive, and energy to your willpower. And second, it provides the blueprints that your willpower follows to ensure that you reach your intent and fulfill your purpose. All right, so now we're going from the beginning of the formula to the end. So as you can see on the slide, the first part of the formula for shaping your destiny is your intention, also known as your purpose. And the second part of the formula for shaping your destiny is your willpower. And your willpower is defined as the ability to control yourself and determine your own feelings, thoughts, and actions. Your willpower receives inspiration once you know and understand what you intend to do with your life. But people with no goals and no purpose have the least amount of willpower and are more easily controlled by outside sources than people with goals and purpose. Because if you have an intent with your life, or if you know what your purpose is, your willpower has much more energy because it has blueprints, it has something to reach for, it has something to shoot for. And once your willpower has received inspiration because you have set your intent, your purpose, and goals, it then begins to empower your mind with the energy and direction needed so you can move, think, feel, speak, and do everything necessary in order to achieve whatever your intent, purpose, and goal is. And what does your mind use to do this? Your body. All goals have tasks that must be accomplished, right? And the only way to accomplish these tasks is by actually doing whatever you need to do in order to complete them. And what do you use to perform the task and complete your goals? Your body. So your body is the vehicle or tool that your mind uses in order to complete your tasks so you can reach your goals. And who controls your body? You. All right, so your intention empowers and guides your willpower, and your willpower controls and directs your mind. Okay, so now to the last two parts of the formula. Once your willpower is inspired and energized, it commands and directs your mind to follow the plan that it has been given by your intent. So now your mind utilizes your brain's motor nervous pathway in order to command what? Your body. Your mind tells your body what movements, actions, words, and tasks to perform in order for you to achieve your original intent, your original purpose. Remember, it comes back to this natural law that there is a thought before every movement you make and before every word you speak. So once again, the question is, what are you telling yourself to do and what are you telling yourself to say? Now, in the next presentation, I'm going to help you find at least one of your talents, gifts, passions, and proficiencies. Because once you discover these, your intent, your purpose, and your goals will present themselves. And then once you establish your intent, this will energize your willpower and provide your life with purpose and meaning. All right, so now let's take a final look at this process of shaping your destiny. Okay, so as you can see on the left, it starts off with your intention, and your intention is also what? Your purpose. So your intention or purpose plus your willpower, and as you can see, I wrote you right there because you control each one of these things. So your intention slash purpose plus your willpower plus your mind plus your body equals what? Success. Destiny shaped. I've shaped my destiny. I've reached my goals. I've achieved my purpose. And remember, each step in this process includes components of your being that you are directly in control of. You create your own intentions, your own purpose, and your own life goals. You utilize your own willpower. You control your own mind and thought process. And you tell your body what movements and actions to perform so you can accomplish your original intent and purpose. And always remember, your decisions determine your destiny. And if you don't educate yourself and become an intelligent decision maker, instead of shaping your destiny how you desire it, you might end up becoming your own worst enemy by creating a destiny full of pain and discomfort and depression. And as I said, in the next presentation, we're going to help you find your purpose and set your intent. Even if you have an idea of what your purpose in life is and you know what you intend on doing with your life, who knows? You still might be able to find some talents and gifts and passions and proficiencies that you didn't even know you had. And now you know the formula needed to shape your destiny exactly how you desire it. Now you just have to use it. All right, beautiful people, that ends this presentation. Much love, and I'll see you in the next one.